Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting in 2026. Okay, and before we start the meeting, can everyone please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Please take a seat. Okay. And tonight we definitely have something very wonderful to celebrate, and we are going to have our Director for Athletics, Physical Education, and Recreation, Scott Stuber, to recognize the fall student athletes. Ms. Stuber, all yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Rogers, and the entire administrative team for your continued support of our outstanding athletic program and allowing me to share some of the fall season highlights, including our student athletes. We had another great fall season. We had 3 conference champions, 2 Nassau County champions, 1 Long Island champion, and our 4th ever New York State championship team this past fall. With all of their success in the fall, I'm also proud to announce that our student athletes continue to excel in the classroom. And once again, our teams earned the NISFA Scholar Athlete Team of Distinction. So all of our teams are Scholar Athlete teams once again, which is obviously a credit to our school community and the parents here today. So congratulations. I'm going to start tonight with a member of our boys football team, so I'll ask Austin to step in. Coach Rourke and Coach DeLuca couldn't be here, but they reached out to me this morning. They're attending the National Football Coaches Association Conference. Again, just more professional development for our coaching staff, putting our children in the best position to be successful. Austin is a junior, a 3-year starter, one of the very few who have started since they were a freshman in the history of the program. He had an outstanding season as our linebacker, and despite an injury against Massapequa, continued to be an integral part of the team, and we're counting on him to continue his excellence next year. I want to congratulate a junior, Austin Cohen. Congratulations, Austin. It's always tough when you go first. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our boys varsity soccer coach, Coach Brett Waxer.
Good evening. Before I recognize the boys up here, I always have to recognize here. So thank you so much, Dr. Rogers and the Board of Education. It's always greatly appreciated, all the support that you guys not just give our boys, but the entire athletic program. So thank you so much. Mr. Stuber, greatly appreciated. When you have an athletic director who just has so much passion for all the teams, for the coaches, and for the student athletes, it's just a great culture to be part of. So thank you for that. This year, our boys made it back to the Nassau County Finals for the 2nd year in a row. Although we might have fell a little short last year, we got the championship this year. We met a Herrick's team that earned their win. But still, that takes away nothing from being so proud of all these boys for all their effort, their character, and the resilience that they showed all throughout the season. I'm always honored to coach such a great group of young men. And tonight, I'm especially proud that we could recognize all of them for their individual achievements. All county honors were earned by seniors Captain Jake Dappis, Xavier Pulse, Cole McGuire, along with Javi Navarro. In addition, Jake Dappis also received 2nd team All-State honors and was named to the 2nd team All-Long Island Newsday All-Long Island team, an astounding accomplishment. These awards reflect not only their talent on the field, but their leadership, their work ethic, and their commitment to our program. I couldn't be prouder of these young men. As I always say with our guys, our season is like a journey, and to go along a journey with four just great young men. I'm really just honored, and I'm very fortunate. So just want to say thank you, and to these boys, love you and appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and congratulations. And again, at this time, I'd like to introduce Coach Tom Rooney, and he's the coach of our boys badminton team.
Good evening, everybody. I am the proud varsity coach of boys badminton. This year we had a very good year. We went 9-5, finished 4th in the league, and I just want to say, there's only about 18 high schools that have badminton in Nassau County, and we are one of the districts that really supports this sport. It's very popular in the school, and we appreciate the Board of Education and Dr. Rogers and the rest of the central administration for supporting us, the athletic department and Mr. Stuber. We had over 100 boys try out for badminton. We have a varsity and a JV. Some schools don't even have a JV. So it's a very strong sport. We're very proud of it. We've had a number, we actually had the most all-county athletes in boys badminton this fall. So we have some in front of you right now. Jeffrey Chen, Emerson Chang, Brendan Jiang, Ryan Su, Aaron Wang, Roger Yi, and Henry Zhang. Thank you.
Congratulations. What Coach Rooney didn't say is that he also had one of the youngest badminton teams. So we are hoping to challenge for a county championship in badminton next year. Thanks, Coach. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our varsity girls volleyball coach, Coach Liz Christensen.
Good evening. First of all, I'd be remiss without saying something. As coaches, we do what we do. We get so much incredible support from administration, the board, Scott, Nancy and Dorothy Athletics, Mr. Gagstetter, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Kaz, and our amazing athletic trainers. Coaching here is truly working with the very best. I want to thank my staff and all the fellow coaches. The incredible support we get throughout the year, we're texting each other, talking to each other, is what makes coaching here so special and so much fun. I'm proud to present our 2 all-county athletes from this season. These 2 student athletes mean so much to the volleyball program. Both are outside hitters who play all the way around and rank at the top of our team statistics in hitting, serving, and defense. First is junior Madeline Silvestri. Mads has grown into a tough, well-rounded player who gives everything she has to her team in the game. She's a smart competitor with countless highlight reel moments this season, a lot of them. She's coachable and gives us all she has on a daily basis. The coaching staff is super excited for your senior season and all you're going to bring. Congratulations, Mads. Senior Claudia Cusa, a 3-year varsity player. Honorable mention All-County a year ago. Claudia was a senior co-captain this year, named to Newsday preseason top 100. She also participated in the Nassau County Senior All-Star Game and was named to the playoff all-tournament team. She's had an incredible career playing both outside and right side for us and giving so much to our team. We're truly going to miss her leadership and all the outstanding plays and fun and everything that we've had with her for the past 3 years. I wish her the very best wherever she ends up going to school, and I know that she's going to do great things in the future. Thanks, Claude. Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies. At this time, I'd like to introduce the coach of our girls varsity soccer team, Mr. Tyler Arnone. For the team.
Thank you. First, I want to just thank Dr. Rogers, the Board of Ed, Mr. Stuber, my building principal, Ms. Kang, and all the parents and the community that supported the girls soccer team, who ultimately went all the way to the county final this year. Tonight we're recognizing 3 of our student athletes. One, Sienna Kumo, is not here. She's in Florida at a soccer tournament. But then we have Lindsay Keschner and Julie Shaughnessy, who are tremendous leaders, great teammates, and Lindsay going to Virginia, and Julie committed to play lacrosse at Michigan.
Congratulations, ladies, and we will be seeing both Lindsay and Julie more in future seasons. They're great athletes, great part of our athletic program. It gives me a more great pleasure to introduce the coach of our girls swimming and diving team, Coach Mike Cipollino.
Thank you, Mr. Stuber, Dr. Rogers, the Board of Education, and our community for your support, and to our great coaching staff, Mark Acuto and Tom Cornelia. We're all so proud to represent Syosset. I have the pleasure of honoring 5 of our team members on stage tonight, and we're joined by many of our teammates in the audience as well. Together, they've earned 43 consecutive dual meet wins and 4 straight Conference 1 titles. I'd first like to recognize sophomore Mia Q, All-County and All-State Award winner. Mia's relentless work ethic and massive progress during the season also earned her the honor as Team Most Improved Swimmer of the Year. Next, junior Rachel Hoy, All-County Award winner, a tremendously talented swimmer who is always humble in her success and a true difference maker on the team. Next, junior and team captain Amanda Chin, All-County and All-State Award winner, a rare junior captain on our roster. Amanda is a team leader both in and out of the pool and has been a critical part of our team's success since joining our roster as a middle school student. Next, team captain Jacqueline Liu, All-County and All-State Award winner. Jacqueline is a composed, dependable leader who unites the group and shows up big when the pressure rises. Jacqueline also earned the honor of Most Valuable Senior this year. Last but not least, senior captain Madison Lynn, All-County, All-Long Island, and All-State. Humble in her success and relentlessly team first. Madison holds our school records in all 3 swimming relays and individually in the 200 freestyle, 200 IM, 50 freestyle, 100 freestyle, 100 backstroke, and 100 breaststroke. Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies. And at this time, I get to introduce Coach Rich Caffiero, the head coach of our boys cross-country team, conference champs, Nassau County champs, and the state qualifier champions representing Nassau County at the states. Coach Caffiero.
Good evening, Ms. Chang, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Rogers, administration, and our Syosset community. On behalf of Coach Matt Anderson and myself, we are proud to present the Syosset boys cross-country team as this year's Nassau County champions. Often called a summer sport that's played out in the fall, there was much work done behind the scenes with our summer training program. The boys were undefeated during the regular season, which helped them earn the title of division and conference champions as well as county champions. The boys dominated the field at the county championship, winning by a wide margin, and also at the state qualifier meet, earning a trip up to Queensbury, New York for the state meet this year. Members of the team are as following: Alex DeVito, Drew Kenner, Aiden Weinberg, Nick Lavaca, Brady Juan, Justin Yao, Ben Luxembourg, Jacob Ellenwood, Michael Frangus, Hunter Sang, Josh Kai, Jalen Chan, Will Rydell, Evan Uman, Jaden Robotham, Liam Casey, Ryan Uman, Nick DeStefano, Ari Zyman. The following members were all conference this year: Sugan Shirganesh, Joe Zolo, and Alfie Donaldson. And our all-county members, we had 5 of them, the most out of any Nassau County team. Liam Saavedra, Christian Frangus, Anthony Fiore, Brad Summer, and Luis Cruz. Finally, I'd like to point out that our team's success is largely in part due to this senior class, this in particular senior class. In short, through their approachable and inviting personalities, they created an environment of acceptance at practice each day that makes our team, the entire team, comfortable to be themselves. We're both strong believers as coaches that peak performance comes from kids feeling most comfortable. Well done, boys, and thank you very much.
Great job and congratulations. It's getting a little old introducing the next gentleman. He seems to have success every season since I've been here in Syosset. But without further ado, tennis coach, both boys and girls, Mr. Shai Fisher.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, administration, and members of the community. I'm proud to talk to you tonight about some of the achievement in the girls' tennis program this past fall. All right, 22-1 overall record. 3rd year in a row, Nassau County champions. 3rd year in a row, Long Island champions. 3rd year in a row, regional champions. But not the 3rd year in a row state finalists, because for the first time ever in school history, we can say in 4 words, New York State champions. So I'm just going to call them out one by one, in no particular order. Senior co-captain Stephanie Marcheret, senior co-captain Julia Isham, Dia Varma, Lumi Park, Kayla Kim, Selena Wang, Shubu Pradhan, Skylar Lin, Anna Steinberg, Kayla Kim, Hannah Wang, Kaylee Goris Moroff, Tiffany Kai, Lua Park, Sophia Chang, Lulu B, Marissa Mustakakis, and Sia Mehta. Girls, I know you've heard me say this before, but more importantly than all the winning, seeing the tremendous growth with old friendships, the formation of new friendships, maybe even when we didn't get along in the past. I'm sure that's what you'll appreciate. It's those relationships that much more as you get older, you realize you're really part of something truly special, doing it all together. Congratulations again, New York State champions. I just have some individual honors. Oh, go back. You're not getting away that easy. We had 8 young ladies earn all county honors in doubles. The following ladies included are Shubu Pradhan, Julia Isham, Kayla Lowe, Lulu B, Dia Varma, Selena Wang, Skylar Lin, and Hannah Wang. I see some faces in the crowd that know how hard it is to get all-county in doubles. We also had 1 all-county singles player, our senior captain, Stephanie Marcheret. She's actually our Nassau County champion, which is our first time since 2011 that we have a singles county champion. We had 9 girls total all-county, which is tying the program record, but then some new records. Most recently, Newsday named their all Long Island team. We had a pair of 8th graders, Skylar Lynn and Hannah Wang named to the second team All Long Island. And we had Stephanie Marcheret named to the first team, as well as being named All Long Island Player of the Year. So we've never had in the program 3 All Long Island girls. Even more records, we now get to the state level. We had 5 girls earn all state honors. We had 2 doubles teams. Advanced to the semifinals of the county tournament. We had 10th grader Dia Varma, 9th grader Selena Wang. They finished 4th in the county, and we had the 2 8th graders, Skylar Lynn and Hannah Wang, finishing 2nd in the county and 7th in the entire state. So, and then one last honor in our state singles tournament, Stephanie Marcheret finished 3rd in the entire state. And a few days later, Stephanie earned All-American status. So, ladies, tremendous season, and now let's go get ready for midterms. Excellent job.
Congratulations. I just want to share something. Every season, whenever we honor our athletes, I always get to talk about how great they are on the field, in the court, on the track. I get to talk about how great we are academically in the classroom with the Scholar Athlete Awards. But this year, Section 8 partnered with the New York Jets, and they started focusing on professional development for athletic directors and coaches. And it's based on a book by a gentleman named Joe Ehrman, who wrote about transformational coaching. So this fall, as I attended some of my professional development periods, I really did enjoy it because I got to see Mr. Ehrman speak 3 different times, and I'm a big believer in what he brings to the table. But I started to reflect on the coaching staff. We're very lucky. We got tremendous support from the Board of Education, the community. Obviously, the kids who are up here would not be here without their family and the support at home. But the one thing I'm really proud of is I looked at the coaching staff, and I'm like, what can I do to provide more professional development for my coaches so we continue to give these students the best opportunity in their high school career? And what I'm really proud to say is our coaches have been transformational coaches since I've been here. And I'm sure they were here before I started, but they do a really good job. They care about the overall growth and development of each student. They really, truly interscholastic athletics, which I believe is really important to kids' development, because there's a lot of club sports and a lot of stuff you could do outside, but it's that educationally based approach. It's an extension of our physical education program, and I'm really proud to say that the coaches, who are very nice, they always speak great about the kids, and they always thank the Board of Education, but they truly are deep down inside. They care about your kids, and they want the best for them. So I'm really proud, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank my coaches for all their hard work. And thank you again, once again.
Truly amazing. A lot of record breakings, a lot of good records this year. So wish them the best of luck and keep up the good work. Okay? And so we are going to start our meeting on stage, and then while we're moving on to the dais, this will be a perfect chance to make a graceful exit if you don't want to stay for the meeting. Thank you. Okay, so the first item for the meeting will be the approval of the minutes, and that's going to be 5A, the approval of the minutes of the December 8th, 2025 monthly meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? And Dr. Rufo, can we have the treasurer's report and appropriation adjustments, please?
As shown on the treasurer's report, the cash on hand for the month end November 2025 was $141,784,852.50. It shows that bank balances for all the cash accounts were reconciled to the book balances and were collateralized in accordance with the district's banking agreements and investment policies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rufo. 6A and 6B can be taken together. They're the approval of the treasurer's report and appropriation adjustments. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Dr. Park. Are there any questions for Dr. Rufo? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and next we're moving on to superintendent's report. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Happy New Year, everyone. I was just chatting with Mr. Rotolo for a second. He said that he'd never met an all-American athlete before, and I said, neither have I. So as of tonight, we can all say that we've met an all-American athlete. So that's pretty special. So congratulations to all of our coaches, all of the teams for all their success, for all their hard work, and for representing us so well as an organization. A couple of pieces of business. I want to update the Board of Education on something that we first talked about in November of 2023. I had informed you that the Syosset Library had approached us with some interest in the old Woodbury School that has been sitting idle on the corner of Jericho Turnpike and Woodbury Road. As you'll recall, at that time, the board had asked the administration to, as part of our work towards the bond proposal that was ultimately affirmed by the community, to research whether there was a district use of the building that would make sense given the amount of money that it would take to rehabilitate it. So we went through the process of identifying how much we thought it would cost to rehabilitate the building, realizing that there are a lot of unknowns with it, and then identifying the kinds of things that we might be able to move in there in terms of offices and other kinds of space. At the end of that process, the board concluded that the expenditure was not worth the amount of square footage that we could obtain, and that there were less expensive ways for the school district to house any of the programs that we might relocate there, administrative offices and the like. And so that was not ultimately considered to be part of the bond proposal that was put in front of the community for approval. So subsequent to all of those conversations about possible uses for the facility, we were approached by the library. They had talked about their idea of using it as an annex in the north part of the community. They have obviously their existing facility that's in the south part of the community, and they felt like it would be a location that would allow them to serve more of the community and have more space, particularly for students and seniors who are heavy users of the library. So those conversations at the time were sort of put on the back burner because our focus was on finalizing the bond proposal for the community, but we didn't lose track of that conversation. Several months ago, the library personnel had the opportunity to tour the building, take a look at the interior space. They asked if we would make our architects and engineers available to them for some questions. That meeting happened last week, and they were able to question H2M about the condition of the building, the cost of possibly rehabilitating it, and whether it would lend itself to use as a potential library annex type of facility. So I think it's still early days in terms of being able to explore this possibility, but I did want to report back to the board on last Thursday's meeting, and I would say that there is still some interest and enthusiasm on the part of the library board to continue to explore this a little bit more. So what I wanted to do was let you know what happened last week, and that there is interest in continuing to have conversations. And what I propose, Ms. Chang, is that in the future we add this as a presentation from administration and, if you wish, a discussion item for the board to be able to consider this a little bit further.
That would be great. Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
With that, shifting gears from facilities to the things that happen in facilities, I want to talk a little bit about science. Science is near and dear to my heart because I was a science major as an undergrad, and so I obviously have a passion for the content area and so much enthusiasm about the work that gets done here. A lot of what we do is kind of captured in examples of success, and just last week we had some really nice news. We had 3 winners of the Regeneron Science Talent Search: Elaine Liu, Grace Liu, and sitting to my right, Nikhil Shah. Congratulations to all 3 of them. And that success as seniors doesn't happen at the end of junior year or the beginning of senior year. It's actually a progression of instruction that starts very early. And a lot of the work that we've been doing over the past really decade has been to try and build the foundation of science, to teach science in a more rigorous and a more authentic way from the earliest grades, and let that foundation be something that we can build on as students go into the secondary program. One of the advantages of having approached this in a much more phenomenon-based way is that we have found ourselves converging to the same place where the state's new standards, adopted more recently than our efforts, are leading the state as well. So our investment has been rewarded by a change in science standards that really focuses on phenomenon in the same way that we have. So what I wanted to do with the board is to update you on some of the work that's been underway over the course of the last several years and some of the changes that the state is making and how our work is going to lead us right into success with those new standards. So to get this conversation started, I'd like to call our team to the podium, and we'll have, I think, Dr. Wojcik, are you going to start us off? Mr. Steinberg is going to start us off.
Okay, good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Rogers, and thank you once again for giving us the opportunity to share with you some of the great work that's been going on, and certainly a night where we have a lot to celebrate. Hopefully we continue that celebration in our successes that we've seen in our science program to date. So what we're going to talk to you about tonight is the work that we've been doing to get our students prepared for what's about to happen. And these NISLA standards are doing, or are aligning, I should say, with more of how we've been teaching science and getting our students to think and act like scientists and engineers, where we have shifted away from that question of what do our students know towards more of what can they do with what they know. And that's really where the focus is. So we're focusing, and you'll see through the presentation, on how we're developing students' ability to ask questions, to ask deeper questions, their ability to design experiments, their ability to analyze data, and then to use the evidence to craft arguments based upon that, and then to be able to solve problems that may not have a single answer to it, but multiple answers to it. And we look at those skills and we'll see that they're not just skills that are unique to science, but they are skills that are going to make our students successful as they move into the future. So whether that's going to be at the next level at a university or in their careers when they're going to need these skills to help to be successful. And as we know, they may be involved in careers that haven't even been invented yet, so that haven't been created yet. So these baseline skills is what we're going to be looking at. So we're going to take some time tonight and talk a little bit about how the work we're doing is aligning with the board's mission and goals, and how we talk about in our mission about really future-proofing our students, getting them ready for the futures that we imagine, the ones that we've yet to envision, in a sense, and then how your goal of academic excellence is aligned beautifully with this kind of work in terms of cultivating those collaborative skills that students are going to need to be successful, so they can then be positive contributors to whatever communities they're involved with as they leave the Syosset community. So to get us started and to take a little bit of a look back, we begin in 2016, which is in the base of this timeline. And in 2016 is when New York State adopted the New York State Science Learning Standards. The last time New York State adopted science standards was back in 2002. So there's been 14 years in between that teachers have been teaching to the older standards, but that's not to say that teachers have not been evolving the practice. And again, in Syosset, we've had that thought of teaching about the skills and moving away from the content acquisition for a very long time. So the fact that the state has finally sort of caught up to that, really we're uniquely positioned for that kind of success. And we'll hear in a little bit the work that's gone on since 2016 at our elementary level to build that foundation. But I kind of want to focus on what the end is here currently and what we're facing with now. Because we just came out of the 24-25 school year, which was the first administration of the Earth and Space Science and the biology aligned Regents exams, where we had an option as a district for our students to participate in that administration. And we very intently chose not to participate in that. And the reason being is to give our students an extra year of preparation within the curriculum to ensure their success. So that we watched as other districts did participate in this first administration, but now what we have available to our students is we have the example of the exam, which is helping, and also providing our teachers the opportunity to then continue to prepare for this transition. We made the same decision in regards to physics and chemistry, which will be taking that administration in June of 27. So this coming June, our students will be taking the newly aligned Regents exam to biology and to Earth and Space Science. The following June, June 27, our students will be taking the newly aligned physics and chemistry. So to begin our conversation tonight, I am going to invite Dr. Jeanette Wojcik to come up to begin talking to us about what's been going on since 2016, building that foundation, and then later in the presentation we'll have our assistant principal for science and technology at the high school, Ms. Irina Kimragarov, along with one of our chemistry teachers, Ms. Syria Vino, excuse me if I mispronounced that, I know it's a new name, but I'll get it eventually, and one of our physics teachers, Mr. Seriello as well, who is going to help us to see the work that's been going on. So at this time I'll ask Dr. Wojcik to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. Good evening, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Curry, Board of Education. As always, I have the pleasure of sharing all of the great work that's taken place to build that strong foundation at the elementary level. So before you on this slide is a little bit of a timeline that shares all the work that's taken place since 2018. So in 2018-2019 school year, this was really where the elementary began to infuse and begin the process of looking at the transition of the next generation science standards and the New York State Science Learning Standards. So at that time, we convened a science curriculum committee that came together to really look at the standards and look at the instructional shifts that were required, really focusing on the three dimensions of learning, science and engineering practices, cross-cutting concepts, and the disciplinary core ideas. And from there, really looking at what primary resource might be the most appropriate to help engage students in this science learning. And that committee's outcome was the selection of Carolina Building Blocks of Science. And so this really set the pace and the ground for a strong primary resource to ensure that students were learning those standards. In the 2019 and 2021 school year, this is where we really focused on building capacity. So it was really about professional development. So in 2019, the district and the Board of Education had the foresight to hire Ms. Barbara Fournier in her previous position as the STEM specialist. And this really allowed us to hit the ground running with building and supporting teacher capacity In fact, it was so successful, as you know, that Ms. Fournier's role was expanded last year as an administrative position, which allowed her to expand her knowledge and depth and breadth in not only science but math and the enrichment program as well. And again, professional learning started with grade level workshops focused around that three-dimensional learning, so digging deep into the science and engineering practices, cross-cutting concepts, as well as the disciplinary core ideas. Teachers engaged in hands-on learning. They were able to get into the science and engineering practices, making sense of what that meant, what it looked like in the classroom. Curriculum writing took place, planning and training in Carolina Science took place. We spent the time investing in building the capacity over those 2 years. From there, in 2021 to 2023, it really was where we enhanced the curriculum. It's where we started that strong foundation. We moved into a deep implementation. Instruction was really focused on claim, evidence, and reasoning, which really teaches students to explain their scientific thinking by stating their claim, backing it up with evidence, and then explaining why that evidence makes sense. And this really, really strengthened our students' scientific thinking and their scientific discourse with the teacher and with each other. From there, we dug deeply into the science and engineering practices, which allowed students to focus on learning science by investigating actively with one another, with analyzing, designing, and then explaining their learning. This also coupled with the rollout of the New York State lab plan. So elementary students in 5th grade are required to complete certain labs at the 5th grade level. So this rolled out at that time. Finally, 2023 to 2025, it's kind of like our elevation, our innovation. It's where we've taken the work we've done, we've refined it, we've built coherence and built some innovation into the practices that we've been doing. We've revisited the curriculum, revisited pacing, making sure it's reflecting all of the shifts that have taken place in the NISLA standards. Specifically at this time, the New York State Science Assessment shifted from from grade 4 to grade 5. Intentionally, we prepared students for the increased rigor, the independence, and performance-based expectations that they were going to encounter as they moved on into secondary science. So summer curriculum work, all of the work that we've built between 2023 and 2025 really allowed for our elementary students to build a deep and strong foundation with this multi-year approach as they move toward their secondary science curriculum. At this point, I'd like to welcome Mr. Steinberg back up.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. So you can see how just, in almost a decade, the amount of work that's been going on and building that foundation. And you will hear now from the secondary perspective how that work has continued. So you'll hear some of the same strategies being employed as we now move through the middle and the high school as we're getting our students ready for that. So I'll invite Ms. Kim Regarov to come up and to continue that conversation for us. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Rogers, members of the board. It's my pleasure to share with you this evening some of the work we've been doing at the secondary level. I'd like to start just by talking about the three-dimensionality that Dr. Wojcik alluded to, specifically the notion of the disciplinary core ideas, the science engineering practices, and the cross-cutting concepts. As you see displayed before you, the disciplinary core ideas are the content. This is the biology, the chemistry, the physics, the earth and space science that the kids are still learning. And those same concepts, rather the content, is being presented either in the form of a phenomenon to the students or a problem that needs solving. The second dimension to our very intentional planning and instruction and assessments are the science and engineering practices. And these are the practices that we are building upon from the elementary through the middle school and the high school levels as we're teaching our students these skills and these practices that they could hopefully take with them beyond their high school science classes. And the cross-cutting concepts are those skills that we see spiraling through all of the science classes as they, again, go through the elementary, middle, and the various high school disciplines. Just to get a little bit deeper into what those look like, so for example, the cross-cutting concept of energy and matter flow cycle conservation across all science disciplines, students would see in biology this is demonstrated through the food chains and webs as they noticed that energy flows through the food chain. And then in chemistry, they built upon the same concept through the conservation of matter, that energy and matter is preserved. And in physics, they continue the same conversation and exploring of these concepts as energy can change from potential to kinetic and vice versa, that same preservation of matter and energy. The science and engineering practices, as you see them delineated, they're amazing practices that we're hoping the kids are learning across all disciplines, and not just in the sciences, but in their social studies, in the English classes, in the mathematics classes. So to demonstrate just an example of one of them for engaging in argument from evidence across all content areas, we see in science it comes through as claim, evidence, reasoning that Dr. Wojcik alluded to as well. You might have heard your students talking about it at home, maybe a homework assignment they're completing or something they're experiencing in class, and a little bit more where they're using evidence from what they've explored in order to support a claim and then explain how it all ties together. They're doing the same exact thing in English and in social studies as they're looking at document-based questions and responding to those questions using evidence in the documents that they're reading or the literature that they're referencing. In math, that comes through as the mathematical practice of constructing viable arguments. They do this quite regularly, where they substantiate their solutions by explaining what it is that they're doing. It's all the same ideas, the same practice. Might be called a little bit different in a different content area, but we're building the same skills across all content areas. So what does that actually look like in practice? Under the old NICET standards, we were traditionally looking at a lesson that was content-driven. There were standardized labs, and the assessments were 1 or 2 dimensional, and we'll take a look at what that means. And under the NISLA standards, the New York State Science Learning Standards, we're looking at lessons that are inquiry-driven. There's phenomenon, there's demonstrations. We're engaging students in constructing explanations of what's happening there, and the assessments that we're engaging in are 3-dimensional. And in this transition, as you could see, the old to the new, there are some differences. What do we do to support our teachers in this transition and ready for implementation? There was a whole slew of things that we were fortunate enough to be able to engage in. The summer curriculum writing that was supported by the board across all science disciplines at all levels over several summers. Our teachers attended local conferences. We took advantage of the of the PLC framework within the high school to have our teachers come together on a regular basis to engage in those conversations, to wrap their heads around what's required and where they need to make that shift. We utilized every opportunity we had on a regular basis, whether it was monthly department meetings or superintendent's conference days, whatever we were able to, in order to bring the teachers together across the middle school and high school for in-district collaboration. We were fortunate enough to have cross-district collaboration with multiple districts, and of course, take advantage of external consultants and the training offered by BOCES to have our teachers engage in this kind of work as they prepare to engage the students in this kind of inquiry-led learning. So starting at the end and looking at how we would like to assess our student learning, what would that 3-dimensionality look like? So let's take a look at a 7th grade science example. On the left, you have what would have been a very familiar old-style question on on elements and compounds, where the questions are very direct, just recall of content. You could see that there wasn't much critical thinking involved. It's what do you know, what happens, and respond. Under the new style questions, we have the same content, but you could notice even visually there's a whole cluster involved with this question. We're looking at the same elements versus compounds, but now we're asking students to develop and use models. When we're asking them to draw an example to support their answers, we're asking students to engage in an argument from evidence by looking at a diagram, by extracting information, and by writing about what's happening there and supporting their explanation. We're asking students to engage in the use of the cause and effect cross-cutting concept and to take a look at the structure and function of what's being tested there. At the earth and space level, similarly, you look left to right, old versus new. On the left, we have our earth science question. 2-dimensional, we have content, we have a model that the students are perhaps looking at in order to answer the question. And when you look on the right, you see that's one cluster of information surrounding the same physical weathering. They're asked to look at graphs, they're asked to construct arguments as well. There is that content, there's that science and engineering practice, there is that cross-cutting concept that their students are engaging in. So if that's what our students are asked when we're assessing their learning, what would the learning need to look like? In biology, for example, this is just one example, looking at the content of variation of traits, it would perhaps start with the phenomenon. Take a look at that picture that's presented. What do you notice? What questions do you have? And that starts students thinking about what questions they might have and share some of those hypotheses that then transition them into analyzing and comparing DNA sequences to identify different types of mutations. And that's the cause and effect. They're looking at what happened and the effect that came as a result. And then at the end, they would synthesize their learning to then answer a question: if you were a cell, which of these mutations would you be most worried about and why? And that's the analyzing, the interpreting, and the constructing of explanations. So that's just a model in biology and how that lesson would now look like, so that our students are able to look at an assessment question where we're assessing their learning and engage in those same 3 dimensions of tying together both content, practices, and the cross-cutting concepts in order to really demonstrate their understanding in a fuller picture. Though we are implementing earth and space science and biology standards this year, we're still very much engaged in this work with both the chemistry and the physics classes. Our teachers are already planning and implementing these kinds of lessons in their chemistry and physics classrooms. I'd like to call up both Ms. Giravino and Mr. Ceriello to share what that looks like in those classes.
Good evening. My name's Courtney Sharavino, and I'm one of the chemistry teachers at the high school. So just to give you an example of what a NISLA-style lesson may look like in our classrooms. So like Ms. Kimiagarov said, it always starts with a phenomenon, something to question about. And this could be something as simple as, why is beach sand wet? It seems like a simple question, but actually a lot of science goes behind it. The students live right near the beach, so it's an interesting question for them to ask. And we don't just ask the question, they get to explore and discover it themselves. So the students go off, they go into their lab groups, and they study and examine sand. But not just any sand. We trick them with magic sand, hydrophobic, sand that doesn't interact with water. Now this blows their mind. The kids love it. And they get to explore, why is it so different? Why does beach sand get wet? Why doesn't this? And you just give them time to discover, to be curious about what's going on. They'll ask questions, and really smart, intelligent questions, and they start to connect it to other things, right? What other patterns have they seen in other sciences, or even their everyday life? And they start to construct these explanations that it has to do with structure and function of these molecules. Why do they behave so differently? And this whole idea just starts from the question, why is beach sand wet? And they're able to build upon this and able to make it relate to real-world applications. For example, other hydrophobic material could clean up oil spills in our oceans. And that's just a small thing they could get from this. So this is just one example of how the NISLA standards is great for our students and how teachers are implementing it now. So next up will be Joe Ceriello for physics.
I think that's good. We go to the next slide. Yeah. Oh, is it right here? All right, perfect. All right, so a typical question that students would be given in the current impulse and momentum unit would give students a mass of an object, it would give them the change of velocity of the object, give them the time of impact, and it would just ask students to calculate the average force acting on the object, nothing more than that. One of the new standards in the NISLA standards is asking students to apply scientific and engineering ideas to design, evaluate, and refine a device that minimizes the force on an object during a collision. So students are given an example of, or asked a question, how do airbags protect passengers in a collision? And students come up with different ideas. Then, in order to elicit more responses, a teacher would use a very typical demonstration where we hold up a bed sheet and we have students throw an egg at the bed sheet. And students are asked, why does the egg not break? They come up with more ideas, and we create the analogy that the egg represents the person, the bed sheet represents the airbag. So then students are given a task, and the task is using some Vernier tracks that we got last year that can give us live velocity versus time data. Students create a covering to put on those carts as they undergo a collision. Students get live velocity versus time data. They take real numbers, and they find the average force imparted on their cart during the collision. They can refine their design, and as they refine their design, they take more data, and they find a new average force of collision. And one thing I want to emphasize is that calculations are still part of the curriculum. They're still doing that same calculation I described at the beginning. But now those calculations have more meaning. Now they can use those calculations to back up, did my device actually reduce the force of impact? And if so, by how much? Students then can extrapolate to other things in their lives that utilize these coverings and reduce the average force of impact by increasing the average time of impact. Things like helmets, cell phone cases, etc. So just to emphasize, there's a move away from simply calculating the average force acting on an object to calculating the average force acting on an object, but now using that calculation to answer a larger question. So back to Ms. Kimugara.
Thank you both. So as you heard some of the examples, a lot of what our teachers are able to do with their students in the classroom as they engage in this inquiry learning is really building upon the work they've done elementary to middle to now. So the practices that they've been honing on all these years are really coming to life as the students are able to ask those deep questions and feel free to think and exchange ideas and collaborate on problem solving. And it's really great to see how this is applying to their successes, not just in the sciences, but the students who are involved in research, they're taking those skills to their students who are involved in other programs within the school. All of these skills are really supporting their work beyond the science classroom, and that's really what we want to see happen. And we're thrilled to be able to support it through their science education. I'd like to share with you some student sound bites in terms of what they're experiencing in their science classes.
We do CERs in class, and what CERs is, it just really ties everything together about what we learn in either labs or in the classes. And I feel that throughout the years we've had like the building up of that. In elementary school we used to do little questions after class to kind of grasp what we learned. And middle school we did do CERs, but they were mostly very structured and very guided through. And now that in high school, we're able to just write them by ourselves, and I think it really helps me understand things that I might not have beforehand.
So what I love most about learning science this year is that it's a lot of hands-on learning, and it's more like interactive than last year, and it's more like real-life relevant and real-life based.
So my experience learning science in Syosset has been really great. I felt that the teachers helped us get a better understanding of the world we live in by using acronyms, visuals, and explaining it in a way that just made sense instead of just saying, oh, like, this is the ocean, this is why we have tides and everything. Like, we really got an understanding of it. And I remember going to the beach one day and I was seeing what we were learning in real life, and it really changed my perspective on it. And almost every day, my mom will ask me, oh, Sabrina, like, what's the moon phase today? Why do we have these kinds of constellations now that we don't have in the summer? Like, different questions about the world we live in, and it's really cool to see why our world is the way it is and why things happen.
This is just a very, very small sample of what they're experiencing. And they're very early on in their high school career, so it's not like they've been doing this for years with us at the high school level, but they've been doing this all along in elementary and middle school as well. This is a testament to all the work that's been going in over the last decade or so as we're trying to build up these skills and this interest and this engagement in their science education. And we're just very excited to be in this position now where we have this state's resources and support as well to continue this and to make this part of our regular work. At this point, I want to thank everyone for their attention, and if you have any questions, welcome them.
Okay. Thank you so much for the team for your presentation. Definitely a lot of information and a lot of exciting things. At this point, are there any questions? Ms. Abramson?
Thank you so much. It was great. I really like that more of the hands-on experience is really resonating with the kids. I think that's one of the best things about science. With the new curriculum and we didn't have it for last year, but the schools that did adopt it early seemed to have a disconnect between the curriculum and the regions that was provided, if I'm correct in that. And it showed in the success rate of the students in the regions. Now we have one regions behind us, but it could evolve. How do we help with the new curriculum and new standards and not understanding where the regions is going? How do we help them prepare for those type of finals that impact their grades and so forth?
Sure. It's a great question, and I think the fact that there was a collective decision to delay by the year and give us a chance to not only build up teacher capacity and the resources internally within SIASA, but also kind of wait out and see what the state provides as resources. All throughout last year, they were producing sample clusters and other supportive resources that the teachers could use. But again, for those districts that were already implementing the course, it might have been just not timely enough. And we had the benefit of kind of seeing it roll out and integrated into our curriculum writing and be able to produce more similar resources so that we have a more robust database of whether it's questions or opportunities for students to engage in this kind of learning. And we're hopeful that that's going to be helpful for our students to meet success this June.
Dr. Park?
Thank you for the presentation. It's amazing. And I think it's really us adapting to the changing of the world with AI, and our students are getting ready for that kind of world that they're going to face. So that's wonderful. Question is, so sounds to me, students who have higher level of understanding, people who can process, will have easier time and they will enjoy this new process a lot more. And I'm questioning whether the discrepancy between people who have just better ability to understand and people who struggle with understanding, or their maturity in understanding is a little bit delayed. How do you adapt or help those students in that process? That's one. And second is, I'm assuming that elementary school students who are being trained this way, as they go into middle school and high school, it's going to be all they know in a way. Just like we had to memorize everything, and then we were taught how to take tests. So we were good at that. And now our elementary school students are learning to process it this way from the very beginning. So for them, as they grow into middle school, high school, this is going to be a natural way to do it, and that discrepancy will lessen, I'm assuming. And they are, right now, if they started, they will be in like fourth grade, right? Fourth graders have only known this process of science being taught because it's been about 4 years. So it's still going to be another 8 years when they're ready to graduate. So what do we do until that time?
Of course. It's a great question, and I think to address your first question, the adaptability to different types of learners. As we're implementing, we're having continuous conversations with the teachers across all levels, whether it's honors, regents, ICT, or general studies, in terms of how the students are responding to this and talking about the different scaffolds we can put in. There are different ways that we can, have the students work alongside with us as they're, for example, working through a CER, claim evidence reasoning, and how we wean them off some of those supports throughout, and building that comfort level and confidence with being able to engage in that kind of work. It's very intentional. It's consistent across all of our classes, whether it's, again, honors, regents, ICT, or general studies, and we're all working together as much as we can to share resources to support all of our students. Some of the lessons that were shared with you were from a Regents level class that were easily adaptable to provide more supports and scaffolds. So these are things that are happening, and students are meeting success, and when they are struggling, we're working to find ways to provide those supports until they're able to meet that success more independently. With respect to the discrepancy, transitionally that tends to happen, but what ends up happening is the teachers can just kind of fill those gaps the best that we can. and then we get to ultimately this great happy place where everybody's coming up with this list from kindergarten up, and we're all superstars at teaching it, that everybody meets that success a little bit faster with a little less effort. But in the meantime, we are still working, again, across all levels, very intentionally with middle school and high school teachers at the secondary level. From what I hear at the elementary school level as well, the teachers are collaborating to provide those supports throughout.
Thank you for that. Just to follow up on Shani's question, because I know in the beginning it definitely was a struggle. I had heard through, the grapevine that there had definitely been a chunk of kids who were having a lot of trouble with it. Has that seemed to leveled out and people are getting the hang of it, or are you still seeing the same amount of kids struggling? Has it improved?
From my perspective, from what we've seen, it seems like it has leveled off. I think a lot of it had to do with the comfort level that both teachers and students have reached with the expectations of the course and the rigor that was embedded into the standards. And again, as there are questions or concerns that come up, we do continue to address them. We understand it's a learning curve for everybody involved, and we're doing our very best to support all of our learners and teachers in the process.
I just want to add one piece of that, just excuse me one second, because I think what you're hearing is a reality. And so I just want to validate the reality of that. When the first administration of the Earth and Space Science did come out, there were districts who did participate in that first administration. And frankly, their students did struggle with that for various reasons. And we've all heard, from different, people along those lines. I think where we are at a competitive advantage to those districts is that we started this journey so long ago, and that we started this work back in 2016. And so there isn't really a gap of grade levels that we're dealing with, that we started embedding this way of teaching and learning a while ago. So those 4th or 5th graders in 2016, when they started getting Carolina and they started getting the new curriculum back then, that was in anticipation of this moment. And so in anticipation of that moment, to build that up, and it feels a little bit like, how could we predict almost 10 years down the line? But in fact, that's kind of what we were doing at that point, was to make sure that if we started early, that there would be this real long ramp getting us to this point, so that we weren't just now saying, oh, let's plug in new curriculum now, and let's hope the kids are going to get the skills, and then they're going to be tested on these skills, 8 months later, right? So again, so we've been at this a long time, and by them postponing that administration, we could do that. Now, look, we are watching the numbers carefully. We are, we're making sure that we're putting the supports in place. We are meeting with teachers. We are ensuring that any of the concerns, we're trying to address them as they come up with the teachers as they're seeing what the students are doing, to make sure that when we get there, that they they're going to have the best option, the best possibility to succeed. But I will also, just to kind of bring the temperature down a little bit on some of the concerns, is just to remind you that we do have what's called the do no harm policy on our Regents exams. So students who don't perform at a level that helps their final averages, the exam will not count at that point. So it won't do harm in terms of the final average for them as we go through it here. So there are some safety nets already in place, but our anticipation is that our students are going to perform well. We trust in the work that our teachers have been doing. They have been working tirelessly. And you saw that list of engagement that they were doing, the professional development, all the different conferences, the inter-district partnerships. We bring in outside consultants who are working to do this. Just a quick example, our earth science teachers, when this first came out, they spent a summer creating their own cluster questions prior to the state coming out. They spent a whole summer creating hundreds of these questions in anticipation. That's the kind of teachers that we have. That's the kind of commitment they have in the work they're doing to ensure that our students are going to be ready.
In terms of the curriculum for the year, for the testing, because I know that the curriculum itself has changed, so it's not just for the Regents test, have the kids adjusted well to, I had heard that some of the kids are struggling during this school year, not just for the test. And I haven't heard in a while, so I'm thinking maybe it leveled out. But I know that it was definitely an adjustment to the new curriculum itself. So I just wanted to, the kids, you know, we say it all the time, the kids are under an incredible amount of pressure, and the grades are, you know, of very high in their thoughts. So, you know, I was just wondering if it seems to have leveled out and that the kids seem to have adjusted well, or if their kids are still struggling with the new curriculum and the new way of testing and how that has all been going. Sorry.
So yes, in what we're seeing, it has to a degree leveled out. But I continue, like as I said earlier, there are students who perhaps could be still struggling, and we continue to find ways to find success for them. And it could be a matter of just, it is perhaps a discrepancy of worker that they're encountering. We're trying to help them find that space of success. But from what we're seeing mostly across the board, our students are navigating this fairly successfully, and our teachers are extending themselves to provide those supports to the students as needed.
Thank you. I know you're getting a lot of questions. So how about if you were a cell, what type of mutation would? Sorry, that was it.
I actually know the answer to that.
I know, and I probably shouldn't have asked because I have an answer too that I won't give. My question is, how do we? So the state comes out, gives us 2 years to roll out all 4 exams. The first administration of Earth and Science and Bio would have been last year, so we started this year, and then Chem and Physics first administration is this year, and we're going to roll it out next year. Okay, so for all 4, we opted to go the extra year.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, just one quick question. So in general, elementary through high school, have all of the assessments then shifted from your slides on the 1 to 2 dimensional to 3-dimensional questioning? Have the everyday, let's say, assessments in the classrooms, have they all shifted also to 3-dimensional ways of questioning, or will the students still see the more basic questions as well, just to prepare them for the testing? I'm just curious.
Right, so I could speak to the secondary level, and I think we very deliberately and intentionally are providing students with both the 1 and the 2 and the 3 to build up that stamina and endurance to be able to tackle even the most rigorous of questions, because we want to be able to assess, is it an issue of just content recall, or is it a matter of applying a particular concept or practice? So we were doing our best to really be able to kind of scaffold and differentiate our assessments, whether it's formative in the classroom or the more summative assessments in class.
At the elementary level, one of the things that we did do in 2023 was look at an assessment resource that we could utilize called Inner Orbit. And what that allowed us to do was to provide opportunity for students to practice the higher level questioning. So classroom assessments, labs, things like that, encountered some of the basic levels of questioning, but that Inner Orbit is an online assessment that mimics the New York State assessment that the 5th graders are taking, so that they have an opportunity to practice what those assessments look like. So that's taking place at the elementary level for grades 3, 4, and 5.
Hi, thank you all for the presentation. So I remember probably like 10 years ago in elementary school, we used to do the science project. I don't know if we still do it, but I remember watching my daughter struggle with that, and I saw so much learning going on with that, because I think we probably went through 10 different iterations until something worked. So are we still doing those hands-on where the kids are struggling and they take ownership to that project? And
So there was a performance task on the 4th grade New York State assessment that students practiced with, and then on the day of the assessment, they were conducting the lab experiment or the performance task. So that has shifted. We are still engaging in labs. There are New York State required labs that 5th grade students engage in. So they're engaged in those productive struggles. They're tinkering with things, they're developing claims, they're trying to measure and analyze and then state their reasoning for their claims. And so they're engaging with all of those higher level things, and now it's in a more formal lab requirement that the state has for fifth graders. So we do that all the way K through 5, but the lab requirements are there for fifth graders. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
So just want to thank the team for their presentation and also try and wrap things up with a bow and maybe go up 20,000 feet for the board to just talk at the level of strategy for a second. But before I do that, I just want to say that we're not giving short shrift to our Regeneron scholars. We're going to honor them next month. I just thought it was too good to overlook the opportunity to connect the dots between the success at the end and all the work that goes into the preparation that gets to that success. The point I want to make is while the new standards are more rigorous, there's no question about that, and the expectations driven by the new standards are higher. So there is going to be a level of struggle. I think our teachers, our kids are equal to the challenge, but we're certainly going to see that as a consequence of a more demanding standard that the state has adopted. But the approach that we have chosen to reach that more demanding standard is an approach that's built on phenomena, so it grounds it in the real world and kids' interests. It activates their curiosity so that they're more engaged with the material. It offers them the opportunity to do exploration and experimentation, which in the end, curiosity, exploration, experimentation, these are all expressions of student agency. So students feel a much greater sense of agency over this type of work than they feel over memorization work, because the memorization doesn't really engage them in any kind of choice. So when they're given this choice, they're able to develop skills as opposed to knowledge. So they're developing both skills and knowledge. And knowledge with skills can be applied. Knowledge in the abstract can't necessarily be applied to a new challenge. And so Mr. Steinberg used the phrase, careers that haven't been invented yet. I think there are going to be all kinds of challenges that haven't been invented yet. And so the more we can prepare students with transferable skills, the more well-prepared they're going to be, not just for the assessment at the end of these courses, but for whatever they might encounter in the future. And then the second point I wanted to make is we talk a lot about cross-cutting in Syosset in all sorts of ways, but it's a concept we stole from the Next Generation Science Standards, where we talk about the interdisciplinary cross-cutting concepts. And the idea that you can see concepts that live in all of the sciences, but they're just expressed in different ways. And if you think about all of the resources that we have here and the limitations on them, the one resource that is the most finite of all is time, because our kids have a limited amount of time, and time that is spent in something students don't recall is time that it goes to waste. And time that is spent teaching the same thing twice is also time that goes to waste. So part of what we're doing is making sure we use our money efficiently, and part of what we're doing is trying to make sure we use our time efficiently. And so the cross-cutting concepts identify ways that we can do more than one thing at a time, and that just multiplies the value of the time. And as we get into these more agency-driven, curiosity, exploration, experimentation types of lessons, those are more memorable. And because they're more memorable, it means that the time is put to better use. So that strategy is not just true of science, it's true of how we're approaching at every level and across all of the grades, the work that we're doing. And just one, I want to put an even finer point on what Ms. Kim Yagaroff said when Dr. Park, you asked your question, because even though we will eventually have a cohort of kids who have only experienced claim evidence reasoning, it wasn't like we just started with elementary but ignored any changes to the middle school and the high school. We've been changing at all levels simultaneously. So for some kids, this was a midstream transition. For others, this will be all that they've known. But at every level, we've been making this shift over the course of these 10 years. So no student is experiencing this now for the first time as they've encountered high school. So our goal is to give them the best preparation, and whether or not you're going to be somebody who pursues science, you should at least walk away from the class and say, not my thing, but that was fun.
Sorry, just one more thing. In the way we've differentiated in sciences in particular, the different levels is through increased analytics and analytics. So as you, like, if an AP class, an honors class had more analytics and a different kind of approach to the questioning than, say, a Regents or a different kind of class. And that's how we kind of went up the level. So is that the same kind of hierarchy that we're presenting?
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Steinberg or Ms. Kinbergaroff to go into a little bit more detail about what differentiates them. But in some ways, your broader point is accurate, which is the Regents level classes in the past might have been more focused on content recall and less on application and skill. And the higher level, college level classes, AP level classes would be much more conceptual and then take the conceptual skills and find a way to apply them to a novel situation. So now we're doing that more in Regents level classes. And I'll look for confirmation, but I think that it's the same process, but now the expectation is just calibrated at a higher level in those higher classes.
Yeah, and so if I could just add on to that, just in terms of this shift, when you're seeing the 3 dimensions of the standards now, where at that Regents level, you might have seen more of that single dimension at that content acquisition and sort of recall, and that might have been where that class left off. But now there's an intentionality to ensure that you have the science and engineering practice embedded in there, along with the cross-cutting in everything they're doing. So you'll see, you're right on. You'll see that at a different level, depending on the level of student we're working with. But all students will now get all 3 dimensions and begin to work that scaffold up that way, as opposed to just starting with one and adding the next one on top of it.
Okay, thank you. We have no legislative items and no discussion items and no unfinished business. New business. 11A is the approval of staff changes. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 11B is the approval of stipends and hourly rates 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 11C is the appointment of teaching assistants. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Mr. Ginsberg. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 11D is the approval of online staff salary adjustments. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Dr. Park. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 11E is the approval of online staff amended employment agreement 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, second by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 12A is the first reading of new and/or revised policies. Policy 8115, pesticides and pest management. Policy 8140, unsafe school transfer of choice. Policy 8220, buildings and grounds maintenance inspections. Okay, the second reading will take place at the February 9, 2026 board meeting. Copies of the proposed policies are posted on the district website. 12B is the adoption of Syosset Central School District-wide school safety plan. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Dr. Park. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 12C and 12D can be taken together. They're the approval of the Committee on Preschool Special Education and the Committee on Special Education recommendations. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ginsberg, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 12E is the approval of settlement agreement and release. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 12F is the approval of amended settlement agreement and release. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ginsberg, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13A is the authorization of service contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Dr. Park. Are there any questions? All in favor? Okay, you have a question? Okay. Mr. Greco.
Dr. Rogers, one of the contracts is the intermunicipal contract with Jericho. Can I hope that this is related to our 3 new buses And, okay.
So yes, once we own 3 buses, we will need a way to maintain them. Jericho has a fairly substantial fleet of their own buses and maintenance staff, and we've entered into an agreement with them. They have very graciously agreed to let us use their yard and their maintenance staff to do maintenance on our buses. So I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you to Jericho, and hopefully this will be a great partnership for both school districts and lead to efficiencies for us both.
I noticed the contract's to be dated March 1st, so is that sort of the ETA for when we'll get the buses?
I'm unwilling to give you a hard and fast date on the arrival. We were told that they would be here in the middle of spring, and right now we're not anticipating any delays, but I don't have an exact date that it'll start.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13B is the authorization for special education and or nursing contracts. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Kosia, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13C is the approval of health services. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13D is the authorization for contracts for federal Part B funds. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ginsburg, seconded by Ms. Koshia. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13E is the authorization for piggybacking Southampton Union Free School District Library Supplies, Furnishings and Equipment bid, number SPS 24-001, second extension. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13F is the authorization for piggybacking Rockland County audio, video, photography, projection screens, displays, optic equipment, peripherals, and supplies. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13G is the authorization for receipt of stipends or academic voucher by school district educators from a private university or college. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13H is the authorization for piggybacking bus inspection, repairs, and maintenance. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Mr. Ginsburg. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13I is the approval of student club charters 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13J is the approval of student group charters 2025-2026. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13K is the acceptance of donation, the Black Belt Giving Fund. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Ms. Abramson. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13L is the acceptance of donations, fence cups. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Levitan, seconded by Ms. Falco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? 13M is the approval of disposal of broken, surplus, and or obsolete equipment, supplies, and books. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Rotolo, seconded by Mr. Greco. Are there any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? We have no audience to the public, and I can have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay, Ms. Koshia, seconded by Ms. Levitan. Okay, and we are going to have a special board meeting towards the end of the month for the purpose of awarding contracts associated with the bond projects. And the tentative date right now is Monday, January 26th. Thank you so much. Thank you.